Wanted to make a video on how I secure my tractors to my trailer. There's not really a lot of information that I've seen, or people don't really show how they tie down antique tractors. I use a couple different methods, and I figured I'd share how I do it in this video. For my smaller tractors, I tend to use straps. I find that they're more than adequate to tie these small ones down. Regardless what I'm hauling, I like to have one strap on each corner. I feel that's probably the safest way to do it. These straps here are car hauler straps, which I've kind of modified. These are pretty handy because you can basically wrap right around your axle or your rear drawbar and it won't do any kind of damage to the paint. When I spoke of modifying them, these are actually for a rollback truck with the chain, and I put hooks on. I think that makes it pretty convenient. You can tie right off to the stake pocket. One thing I like to do also is keep my chain or strap, whatever I'm using, inside of this outer rub rail. I feel that makes it a little nicer too, in case someone was to sideswipe you, your strap won't come off. So again, here in the rear end, I like to just go around the drawbar or piece of the frame, whatever you can use to secure it nicely to the trailer. Another trick I do, I use these little clamps to tie down the excess strap. Works pretty good for me. That way you don't have your extra flap, flapping in the, or extra strap, I should say, flapping in the wind. If you have any kind of attachment, it's always a good idea to secure that as well. This sickle bar mower obviously can't really go anywhere, but I put that strap on just to help keep the bar from flopping around. Whenever possible, I like to lock the parking brake, and I also always turn the gas off. I usually run the tractor out of gas. I feel that kind of helps you out as far as not having any carburetor problems. You won't have a bunch of gas, sloshing around in your carburetor. A pet peeve of mine is these slow-moving vehicle signs. These are meant for vehicles under, I think, 25 miles an hour, so you should always remove these when you're going down the road. I try and make all my tractors have the removable style. That way you can take them off while you're trailering them. When it comes to hauling bigger size tractors, I like to use chains and binders. Again, I use one on each corner. For a narrow front tractor, I would do this a little differently, and sometimes you have to become a little creative as far as how to tie it down. I'll include some pictures of some brackets I've made and some different ideas for that. As far as for like a wide front end tractor, I try and hook my chain to the front axle or a good part of the frame, and then I like to loop my chain around the stake pocket. Again, I like to stay inside the rub rail. I use two different types of binders, these snap binders. If you use these, you should always be pretty careful with them. I like to wrap my chain around them and put a bungee to the side rail. That way they can't flip open. In the back, I use ratchet binders. I find you can get them a lot tighter with the ratchet binder style. When I first bought these, I didn't know too much about chains and binders, so I bought two of each variety. If I was starting over, I probably would buy all these ratchet binders. But again, in the back, I like to chain to the drawbar or axle, whatever works easiest, and again go to each corner of the trailer. Other thing I like to do, I always look over the tractor and see if there's anything loose that could flop around. So this seat is kind of wobbly, so I put a bungee over that. And then I try and take anything loose off the tractor. So I remove like the hand crank where that would go. And again, I like to run them out of fuel before I park them on the trailer. So this tractor is going home. I'm going to start working on it. I did add a set of wheel weights to it, but it's this one's turn to go into the garage and get worked on for the summer. These next few pictures are of some tie-down brackets I've made for narrow front end tractors. It makes hauling these a lot easier. Another thing you can do is if you have a front hitch plate, you can always put in a clevis and run a chain through it. Another idea, which I've done before, is to use an axle strap. It's pretty simple to just wrap it around the frame, and then you can hook your chain right to it. As far as trailers go, I prefer to use deck over trailers. That's all I've ever had. The nice thing about these is that with wider tractors, you don't have to worry about fenders being in the way. The only disadvantage is they're a little bit higher off the ground, and they do cost a little bit more. But I feel that they're a lot nicer to use for hauling tractors.